Good day, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. This webinar is brought to you by IES Research, a theme that provides research publication with an engaging voice through the adaptation of the IES storyboard of Big Why, and What. We design visuals and animation to support your research findings, maximize the understanding of the discoveries, and share your story globally to improve research visibility and increase scholarly engagement. In collaboration with Crossref, an official digital object identifier, also known as DOI registration agency of the International DOI Foundation, we are organizing this series to help academic publishers, particularly those in Asia region, to better position their journals to compete with global premier players. This is the first session of the series, and we will have sharings from Crossref as well as artifacts in the upcoming sessions later. Hi, I'm Casey Tang, and it gives me great pleasure to be your host for the day. With us today is Iris Xu from IES Research to share some thoughts on the topic of the strategic future of academic publishing. Iris is a research impact consultant, and her consultancy work focuses on designing an end-to-end research workflow that captures impact evidences for researchers. In her experience of working on research outreach projects, she had the chance to deliver face-to-face curation training and personal consulting to researchers from different disciplines. This sharing will be approximately 20 minutes, and we will have the remaining time for Q&A. Please feel free to ask any questions during the session by simply using the Q&A toolbar located at the bottom center of the Zoom meeting interface. We will collect these questions for discussion later. So without further ado, let me move the ground to Iris to kickstart the session today. Iris, your show.
Thank you, Casey. Good day, everyone. My name is Iris Xu, Consultant of Research Impact for IES Research. It is my pleasure here today to share with you about the strategic future for academic publishing. We will have an overview on academic journal publishing, how it has evolved over time, and how we should prepare ourselves better for the future. This is the first of the 6 sections of webinar series focusing on academic publishing, so it will be focusing more on the overall picture, and then more details will be elaborated in coming sessions. First, let's take a look at the evolution of academic journal publishing over time. The history of journal begins in 1665 with the purpose to announce and communicate the latest research findings to interest communities. Since then, the form remains unchanged for 300 years. In 1960s, Dr. Eugene Garfield of ISI introduced Citation Index, which enables the counting of citations and later enables the birth of journal citation reports. Decades later, JCR has become the indicator for researchers to choose where to publish, for research institutions to assess the performance of researchers, and a quality indicator for academic journal publishers. With the booming of internet and technology come along, academic journals are transforming into digital form. First, it's bibliographic data, which enables journal to be enlisted in ANI databases, such as Medline, ERIC, PsycInfo, etc. And then full text can be digitized and even recognized by machines, and academic search engines like Google Scholar changes the behavior of information retrieval. What social media brings is another evolutionary change of behavior. Readers heavily rely on visualization, bite-sized snippets, testimonials, and feedbacks to determine whether they want to spend more attention to the topic. And readers are demanding information to be more open, accessible, and transparent. Plan S requires that all research backed by public fundings have to be openly available immediately after its publication, and the full implementation is aiming at 2021. People also begin to realize that the world is at stake, and we need to do as much as we can to make the world more sustainable. Sustainable Development Goal, or SDG, proposed by United Nations, is a guideline now adopted by government worldwide. As a guideline for research institutions as well, universities in advanced countries like UK, Europe, and Australia no longer assess research by citation count, but by the social impact the research makes to the society. So as the environment and technology evolve, we see the measurement of research is moving from impact factors to social impact. The behavior of information discovery is moving from journals to articles. The overwhelming of information makes visibility more important than ever, and open access will make research integrity a pressing issue. There are a few ways for research institutions to evaluate the performance of the researcher. Numbers of publications is often used by countries or institutions that encourage productivity of research, such as Indonesia, Vietnam, etc. Now, productivity doesn't mean quality, so the next level of assessment is to address the quality, while the easy indicator for quality is based on number of citations. As we all know, citation takes time, and the situation differs from subject to subject. In average, it takes 1 to 2 years for a research paper to get the first citation, and several years, even decades, to reach the peak of citation. In order to get more citation counts in the relatively short time, many researchers are leveraging on modern media forms, such as social media, to boost visibility of the paper. Altmetrics is one of the indicators to track the online visibility of research papers. Due to the ever-changing nature of social media, it may never become an official indicator for research assessment, but it helps to catch eyeballs of wider audience for potential opportunity to be cited by others. With the emphasis of SDG in recent years, social impact has become the guideline for many things, including research. After all, the purpose of research is to provide people with better environment and better life, which are perfectly aligned with the 17 goals of SDGs. To align outcome with proper SDGs are things universities care about. A good example is that many universities are publishing SDG reports which match research papers and activities and showcase them by its social impact. Journal publishers such as Frontier, who claims to be the 5th most cited publisher in the world, align articles into SDG indicators when publishing. This practice helps not only to drive attention, but enable a whole new way of presenting research outcomes without the limitation of the boundaries by journal or traditional subject discipline. Discoverability is another crucial aspect for journal publishers to invest into. The chart on the upper right shows that the number of active peer-reviewed English language journals are steadily growing, while the number of research articles are even more rapidly increasing to over 3.5 million every year. With so many research journals and articles published every year, publishers need to fight for visibility, so to maintain the incoming number of submissions as well as citations. To be listed in indexing database is just the first step to be discovered, but there's far from enough. With everything online links to each other, the links between articles and metadata, such as author names, affiliations, or keywords, help readers to discover more articles from one single point. So the indexing of metadata plays an important part of article discoverability, which we will discuss more in detail in later sections. The recent trend to increase discoverability and visibility is through research stories. Even with all the technology to make information retrieval much faster and easier, research papers are still full of details and hard to understand even for researchers in the same field. But converting research papers into research story Researchers not in the same field can easily understand the context in a short time. Research stories are not only for researchers' eyes, they can also be beneficial for innovation, commercialization, education, and so on. While many potential readers might not be specialties in the subject area, publishers like Elsevier, AGU, or Emerald are now using research highlight or plain language summary to provide simple, jargon-free, and easy to digest short summary to attract more readers within or outside the subject field. To convert research stories or research articles into short form as research story is not easy, and to make it effectively attract more eyeballs, it requires a whole process from converting paper into research story and present these stories in various forms such as plain language summary, infographics, graphical abstract, even videos, and then disseminate these highlights onto media to attract attention. And finally, to evaluate the traffic to fine-tune the outreach strategy. Many researchers are doing this by themselves, but the most successful cases will be from the publishers. Journal publishers have enough articles to showcase in a designed manner, have more budget or resources to do visual design, and can engage with potential readers and authors through social media. Some publishers do it by themselves, while some publishers outsource it to service providers. But overall, it is a trend for journals to use easy-to-digest snippets, images, and videos in social media to widen audience and continuing engage with readers and potential authors. Open access brings benefit in many ways. With more exposure of the research articles, it potentially brings in more citations, public accessibility, further application to the research works, and many other benefits. No matter it's gold OA, hybrid OA, or green OA, article full text can be openly accessible in some way after publication. By attracting more eyeballs to the full text, the issue of research integrity reveals. With technologies such as originality checking software like Turnitin are widely adopted by universities and publishers, plus easily accessible full text, there are more and more articles being examined and issues are found. Retraction Watch, a blog that's famous by reporting retractions from academic journals, keep a database for all retracted papers reported by publishers. During the past 5 years, within all retracted papers, which is the blue bar, misconduct related with data, which is the orange bar, represent around 30% of total retractions. Misconduct related with image, which is the gray bar, about 20%. The misconduct from text, which you can see from the yellow bar, is descending, probably because it has more systematic way of detecting than data or image. Of course, there are many other reasons why a paper being retracted. More information, if you're interested, can be found from the Retraction Watch database. A misconduct brings shame not only to the author, but also to the institution and the publisher as well. How should journal publishers put attention on these issues and prevent it from happening? How should publishers play a part in keeping the track record of research data for articles, review, publish, examination, even reuse? We will talk about it in more details in later section on 27th of August. The core of research in most cases is data. In the old days, publications, research papers are the final product with no or minimum disclose of research data behind. But with the increasing diversity of research and advancing technologies, the need for research data is even more pressing than ever. We can see the trend from the increasing demand of research data management plan, which researchers should describe their research data and deposit the data in openly accessible repository. Such plan is required by institutions and funders. Also, we see there are more and more data repositories such as Mendeley Data, Figshare, etc., emerging in the market. Research data is the proof of existence as well as the source for reproduction and further application for the research itself. By opening it up together with the research paper, it could increase the visibility, reusability, and chance to get cited. However, all of this may not be easily happening if these sophisticated research results are not converted into easy-to-digest form and disseminated through outreach, whether online by social media or offline by conference or workshops. You might ask, as a publisher, do we really need to prepare so many different formats of research stories? And even if we do have prepared this, where should we put it? The website is either simple or not flexible enough to allow inclusion of such information. So how to do that? It is good to include those additional information onto the website, but since the audience of the website is rather closed, it is hard to attract new audience. Same as academic aggregators, since the audience are very subject-based, information provided is full of details and the model of dissemination is rather passive. Instead, we encourage you to use active outreach to attract wider audience and then bring back the audience to the full text itself. IES Story is such a platform to showcase all format of research stories in one place and allow readers to link back to the full text if they see the relevance. Together with the power of social media, it broadcasts the information to wider audience, including policymakers and industrial innovators. The information disseminated is short, engaging, and by linking to SDG indicators, it is closer to the reader's real life. If we look at the IES story in detail, we could see that it is very different from the original paper, but with much more vivid expression. An easy-to-digest highlight can be used to describe the findings instead of the original title. The plain language summary shows the novelty of the research, describe the background to show what issue it tries to solve, and the potential SDG impact. Audience can choose to find out more about the author, read the full text, look at the graphical abstract, and find relevant articles. The visual part can be a feature image or short video like this to further describe the research. Such research story can be further incorporated with the social media, like a Facebook page, to establish the branding of the journal. Traffic analysis of the post could further provide you with better insights on the outreach strategy. We'll focus more in details on outreach strategy for journals at later section on 28th of August. So what's the takeaways from this sharing? Number one, you have an overall picture of what's happening in academic journal publishing. By understanding what authors and funders think, you should be able to prepare better in shaping the future strategy of your journals. Number two, to make sure your journals and articles are found and linkable in various sources, you should index as much information as you can, including full text, metadata, and research stories. Number three, you should put more emphasis on research data because it helps discoverability, increase the chance to get cited, and ensure integrity. Number four, use easy-to-digest research story in various formats to attract wider audience, which improve journal branding and increase readership from new fields. Last but not least, actively reach out to your audience with these research stories to increase visibility, increase chance of collaboration, and increase the chance to get cited. This is my sharing today, and thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Iris, for the insightful sharing. Now we'll be opening up for the Q&A session. And for the interest of those who joined the session late, you can enter your questions in the Q&A toolbar located at the bottom center of the Zoom interface. Hi, Iris. How are you today?
Hi, Casey. I'm fine. Thank you.
So while we are waiting for some questions to come in, allow me to kickstart the discussion with a few questions of my own. First off, as we know, citation has always been a prominent indicator in the scholarly community, and the worth of a research publication is often measured through the number of citations it gets, right? So would you say that by increasing the metric scores, publications are more likely to see an increase in citation counts?
That's a good question, Casey. Yes, some people, actually there are some researchers trying to find out the relationship between the metrics and the number of citations. But so far, I don't see a very definite connection between metrics and the impact factor. Because as we know, the nature of metrics recorded the visibility of the research article online, including social media, news media, etc., which is very prompt, and you can see the feedback immediately from the distribution of the research papers. However, the citation takes time, and it is not necessarily because it is very heavily discussed on the internet, then it will be cited in the paper. The decision of citation is still depends on whether the article is related to the other paper, and also the quality of the paper itself. So relevancy and of course the quality. But undeniable that if the visibility of the research article online is increasing, meaning that there will be more and more people reading the paper, then since there will be more people reading the paper, then the chance to get cited will be getting more, because there will be more people downloading the full text, for example. The more people discussing the paper, of course, there will be more eyeball lay on the research paper, and then the wider the audience of the research paper.
Right, that makes sense. I do see a couple of similar questions here related to research data. So would you mind to elaborate further on the research data? For example, what is the size of the data is good enough for research, and providing some examples on whether an established journal that practices any good research data management.
Right. The size of the research data, I will say it varies, because in different fields, the size of the research data, and in different research, the size of the research data will be very much. So for example, if you're looking at the biomedical research, the data will be huge. It might be in trillion bytes, for example, one data set. And for other fields, such as, let's say, business or social media, the data sets might be smaller, which contains more on the, let's say, questionnaire and tags, interviews, etc. So the size and the formats are very diverse. So there will be no standard, let's say, format or standard criteria for research data. But of course, research data, no matter how diverse or how the format is, it still is the core of the research. So the journal publisher, of course, the author has to keep it and the journal publisher has the responsibility to review them when the article is submitted to the paper, because you have to make sure that everything is according to the, let's say, ethics or your policy of the journal, etc. So it is necessary to at least review them, or at least you should know where it is deposited. There are some journal publishers, especially those big names, big ones, they have maintained their own repository for research data. For example, we know Elsevier, they own Mendeley data. So a lot of information is stored in Mendeley data. And let's say Nature, Springer Nature, they also maintain a data repository on their own. But having said that, there are still many other repositories which is either free or it takes some subscription prices. Let's say Google Drive, if you can have a free space, or if you can, of course, pay more to get a larger space. Authors can actually subscribe to those free data repository, and when submit their manuscript to the publisher can actually request them to give them more information on the research data and get them access to that research data. So there is not yet a so-called standard way to practice these, but I would say that the importance of research data is getting more and more emphasized because of their integrity. As we mentioned in the slides, the misconduct related to data or image is actually taking a large portion of all the retraction. So it is an issue that we need to take a deeper look at.
Right. So a common goal for all journals is to be indexed by Scopus and as well as Web of Science. Do you think active outreach via social media would actually help them in achieving that goal?
So as we mentioned, the active outreach through social media can actually increase the readership from different fields. And the trend nowadays to get more citations, and according to research, I should say that according to research, there are a few different types of articles which normally gets more citation than others. Number one is collaboration between different research institutions. That is one type. Another type that attracts more attention is as the authors from different subject fields, the collaboration between different subject fields. So widen the audience from different fields can actually attract more eyeballs to your journals, and of course it will increase the collaboration between not only the researchers but also different subject disciplines. And by promoting your journals in social media, you can actually make sure that your articles can be disseminated and expressed in different angles. Let's say, for example, one article which is about, let's say, a therapy to COVID-19. If by posting it onto social media, by posting the research story onto social media, actually, not only you can post these research stories from the angle of COVID-19, but you can also post another, let's say, graphical abstract or plain language summary in another angle, let's say from the therapy itself or from the result. So one research paper, you can have more than one research story from different angles, and that attracts diversity of audience. by attracting diversity of the different field of audience, it actually increases the chance that the paper will be noticed, will be then discussed, the full text will be downloaded more, and of course, eventually the citation will be potentially getting higher.
Right. I think we are running out of time now. So once again, thank you, Iris, for such an informative sharing, and also appreciate all the interesting questions from the audience. I do see there are a couple of questions that is left unanswered. So please feel free to drop us an email, and we'll be more than happy to answer them offline via email. Meanwhile, in order to bring you a better experience in our future webinars, please leave your feedback by scanning the QR code on the slides, the top right corner, and we will actually forward you a copy of the recording of this session as well for your own keeping. So do join us tomorrow for the next session of this series on the topic of not just identifier, why Crossref DOI are important, presented by Ms. Vanessa Fairhouse from Crossref. Thank you for your time and participation. Have a good day and please stay safe. Thank you very much.